Welcome to today's episode of Flight of Freedom. I'm so excited today. I have a client of mine, or a previous client of mine, Dana, to come and share her story and how different life is for her now. Dana is just honestly one of the strongest people you can ever hope to meet. She's incredible. And she literally threw herself into recovery, totally all in. And well, Dana, welcome to the podcast, and you can explain more as we go through the episode.
Thank you for having me today. I'm honestly overjoyed to be able to share my story. It feels very surreal to be telling my own recovery story. It's been so long that I've been listening to other people tell it, and now that I can tell it myself, it's just so overwhelmingly good. If that's the word.
Amazing. Okay, let's start with the icebreaker questions.
Yeah, let's go.
Just because it's tradition. So, what's your favorite sound?
Favorite sound? I'd say the beach.
Oh, nice. Very nice. What if you got sandy or stony beach? Because it's a very different sound, isn't it?
Sandy.
Sandy, yeah, nice.
Sandy, it's calmer.
I quite like we've got both. So different areas. I think we've got like 12 miles of beaches near us. And it starts at one end really sandy and goes really stony to the other end. And I quite like the stony noise as well, because it's quite wild and rugged and just...
I get that.
What's your favorite time of the day?
Favorite time of the day? I would say morning. I'm a morning person, yeah.
Same, very much so. Okay, staying on the theme of favorites, what's your favorite place to be? That place where you're just like,
Again, the beach, honestly. Anywhere next to the sea, just take me there.
Amazing.
It brings out the best in me, honestly.
There's something so calming about water, isn't there?
It is, yeah, very.
Okay, let's get a bit deeper now. What's the one thing in your life so far that you're the most proud of?
I mean, as obvious as it sounds, but my recovery journey.
Amazing.
It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I can't believe I've come out the other end, honestly. I'm just happy it happened. I mean, honestly, during recovery, I never thought I'd be saying this, that I'm happy it happened, because you know how ugly it gets. But
yes.
Now that I'm out of it, it's something I'm very proud of.
Oh, I'm going to jot that down so we can go back to that happy it happened. Because that's quite important, and people listening that haven't gone through it will be like, what? Seriously?
I used to be that person. Really used to be that person. So.
Okay, and last question, which I ask everybody: if you had a magic wand and could change one thing in your life, in the world, just one thing, doesn't matter what would you change?
That's a hard one. I would say I would want people to be kinder to each other.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very much so. Okay, so Dana, you found me through podcast, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell me where you were, as in your relationship with yourself, your body, food, and everything when you decided to reach out.
I was at a place where I was very, very deep into the eating disorder, and I knew I was, but I wasn't consciously doing anything about it. I was convincing myself that I was doing something about it because I was seeing a therapist at the time, and I had been for a while. And I had also worked with a period recovery coach, not so much an eating disorder recovery. but it was more just to, I mean, now that I look back at it, it was just to give myself some feeling that I'm doing something about it, but I really wasn't going all in. Uh, I would maybe eat a bit more for breakfast one day and then continue the rest of the day like I usually would. Or I would make it look like I'm eating more around people just so like my family and my parents and stuff like that would be less concerned. But then I wouldn't actually be going full on, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I had been going through recovery, quote unquote, but it was more of like a facade I put on for myself, and the eating disorder was still lying to not lying to me, but convincing me I was doing the right thing when I really wasn't.
I love that you said that was a facade you were putting on for yourself. I
Yeah.
think people do that so much.
And
Yeah.
because I was in that cycle for very long, by the way, like I knew I had an eating disorder for quite a while. And I was convincing myself that I was doing something about it, but I really wasn't. Or maybe I was like half-assed doing something about it.
And
But
what do you think was holding you back then?
um it's definitely the fear of weight gain, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also that I didn't realize how much control it had on me until I really like tore it up from the roots with you and with my therapist. Like there are things that I found out throughout recovery that I never thought were even drivers of the eating disorder. Like things like um, I know this might sound very obvious to anyone listening, but things like a fitness tracker. Like I used to convince myself that I just wear it to because I'm an athletic person and I like to keep my goals in check. Things
Mm-hmm.
like mm, I don't know, things like a morning walk. I used to have this religious morning walk that I used to go on every single day, even if I was feeling like absolute trash. Even if it was sunny, cold, windy, whatever the hell, I used to go on that walk. And to me it was kind of like, oh, I have a nice morning routine for myself. It looks nice on the outside. It's this like the perfect social media. Oh, spend a nice morning with me. I have a perfect morning routine. It's kind of like that. So all of that was feeding into it, and I didn't even realize until very late.
So, what made you reach out?
What made me reach out is that I was at a place where I had been kind of yo-yoing for a very long time, if that even makes sense. Like I would try to get better, and then I'd go back, and then I'd try to
I
get
think
better.
everyone yo-yos for a while in recovery.
Literally, yeah. But really, when I reached out to you, it was I had just gotten back from a New Year's trip in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I got back from that trip, I think maybe for like a week or even more, I was eating uncontrollably just because I had subconsciously restricted so much when I was there and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize it, or maybe I did realize it, but I just brushed it off because I was too busy seeing people or doing whatever the hell you do when you travel. Um, and I hadn't realized that I've been so severely restricting until I got back and until my body was basically trying to get back at me. And I've honestly, I've done all my research on eating disorders, on period loss, on everything. Like as much as I was deep into it, but I'm also I have a very logical, scientific brain when it comes to these
Mm-hmm.
things, and I always like to do my research on everything. So even though I knew I was in it, but I educated myself about it. So basically I'd gotten back from that trip and I felt like I was kind of losing control, not like eating disorder wise. Like I I I just sat with myself and I realized that I couldn't recognize myself anymore. Like this trip had passed and it was supposed to be like fun bonding family time, New Year's parties, whatever, but I hadn't really felt it, and I'd come back with major regression. physically, mentally, everything. So that was when I went on another like research, basically. I love listening to podcasts. I love reading articles when I can. And I've listened to a lot of eating disorder podcasts. Like I used to use up my free time and listen to stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally remember the day I just researched top eating disorder podcasts and I found you. I started listening to your episodes and every single one hit me so hard. I could not relate to it more. And as scary as it was kind of like a wake up call for me. It was like, this is your way out. Like, I honestly never felt this way with any other podcast or research article or whatever I listened to. This one, when I listened, I think I finished your episodes in like 2, 3 days, something like that. I was just listening.
Wow, that's going some.
I swear, I was just listening to them back to back, and I was like, I was just mind blown by how much I could relate to it, but I was also terrified by how much I could relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I really need to take a stand. I really need to do something about this. And that was when I reached out to you. I emailed you, and I think we started like a day or two after, something like
We
that.
did. We
Yeah.
did. You were wonderfully decisive and just like, yeah, I want out. I want out. I'm done.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic because you came into coaching with the mindset of, I am so done with this and I don't care what it takes. I'm getting out.
Mm.
And well, in your words, tell us about the start of that journey, because I mean, you had the most incredible mindset and you were fucking terrified.
I was terrified. Like, that doesn't even begin to explain how terrified I was. But it was also, I needed a push from
Mhm.
like an outside push. Like, I needed you to push me. But at the same time, I had reached kind of like a breaking point where I'm ruthless. Like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get out of this. And I'm honestly very thankful for that part of my mindset, because like, this is a part of my personality since I was young. And I think it's part of what actually got me into the eating disorder. I'm
Quite
very,
possibly.
yeah, I'm very stubborn and I'm very resilient. So resilience can go the other way. I can be resilient to destroying myself,
Yes.
as weird as it sounds. Um, but yeah, I think the main fear I had going into it was the weight gain and that it would be uncontrollable, because
Mhm.
growing up, I was always overweight. I was always the bigger kid. I was always, even in my sport, I played judo professionally, and it's like you go with weight categories. So I was always in the highest weight, and
Mhm.
and as easy as it was, because I never had to cut weight or anything, but it also made me feel like I was uh, it didn't I it was never fair competition, because the highest weight is like plus 78 and you just keep going as high as
Yeah.
it. So I would be playing against girls like 30, 40 kilos heavier than me, so it was obviously not fair game.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was always thrown in that like high weight category. So I think a lot of things played into it. So it was mainly the fear of gaining weight, and that I would basically go back to how I was before, because what got me into the eating disorder is my major weight loss transformation, which was really good to an extent until it
Until it wasn't.
until it tipped. Yeah, yeah,
Until it morphs from trying to be healthy and feel good about yourself into an uncontrollable eating disorder.
exactly.
Yeah. So you were very hungry when you started coaching, weren't you?
Oof. That was probably the most terrifying part.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't really think about much other than food at that time.
Oh, for sure. And even at the beginning, I remember maybe like the first week, I still had a part of me that was trying to control what I was having.
Yes.
And I kept asking you, like, is this good? Is this enough? Is this, until I learned to just let loose. And until you kept telling me that it's just gonna be a while, it's not gonna last forever. And I tried to
Yeah.
keep myself with that.
So reframing the I'm just going to get bigger forever and ever and ever and be like Violet out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to this is temporary continuously. I mean, how many times a day do you think you had to make that reframe?
You know, realistically speaking, it wasn't reframing until I started to feel the hunger go away a little bit. It was more of just being stubborn about it and just this is what I'm gonna do, whatever it feels like. Because I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I was not convinced that it was gonna stop. Like really deep inside me, I was not convinced. And I was just trying to tell myself, but I really wasn't convinced. So it was just a matter of being stubborn about it and just dedicated until it actually starts to subside.
So, what do you think was going through your mind at that point then? Well, I'm just going to get fat.
What was going through my mind is I was really, I was in a really bad place mentally
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. And if anything, this was my driver from the very beginning. Like, I was doing it to get out of a bad place mentally. I was living in monotone for as long as I can remember. And I felt like I was missing out on a lot of the little things about life that just make life worth living, if that makes sense. Like, honestly, throughout my recovery, or maybe towards the end a little bit, when I started to get a bit better mentally and I started to get a bit of emotion back and everything, just the tiny moments that would pass and I would feel how valuable they were. Like just spending good family time, spending time with people that you love, all that. It would hit me so hard because I'd realize how for the past, I don't know, 3, 4 years, I've been missing out on that, whether physically or mentally. Even if I was there physically, I was missing out on the feeling of it mentally.
Yes.
So that was
Yeah.
my main driver, honestly. I was trying to keep my attention away from my body and more on the fact that I'm working on getting better mentally.
You were very hard on yourself, very strict with yourself, weren't you?
Very, very.
Not in the kindest way.
Mm, at all.
What would you say has changed now about how you treat yourself as a person?
I've learned to listen to my body, to listen to my mind, to give myself a break when I need it, to understand that it's not always running, running, running. It's not always just keep going, keep going. I had this mindset of keep going, keep going, keep going, whatever it takes. And even now when I look back at how I lived those years, it's like a robot. Like I think I seriously think to myself, how was I just going 24/7 with these habits? How was I even surviving? Like if I go back to a daily routine that I had back then, now, I probably wouldn't be able to survive it.
Oh, I totally hear you. There's no way I could do what I used to do. I would just be
Yeah,
absolutely exhausted, wiped out. I couldn't
yeah. Away from the
begin to
food,
think about
away
it.
from the food, just the
Yeah,
habits, everything. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, would you say you treat yourself more kindly now
Yes. Yes.
and speak to yourself more kindly?
Yes. Thankfully, very thankful for that. Took took me a lot of time and effort, but yeah.
Would you say you were resistant to being kind to yourself at the beginning?
Oh, 100%. 100%. As weird as it sounds, I mean, just saying all this out loud now, it feels very weird because I've never really expressed it that deeply. But yeah, I wasn't willing to, because in my head, what got me to where I was, I mean, like weight loss wise, like
Mhm.
I lost a good amount of weight and I was feeling better in my body and all that. Like before I went deep into the eating disorder, in my head, what got me there was being unkind to myself, honestly. And it takes a
Beating
certain amount of
myself up with a
resilience.
big stick.
Yeah, it takes a certain amount of resilience and pushing yourself to get there until it turns into an unhealthy form.
Yeah. So, how does it feel now mentally to actually be a friend to yourself rather than a persecutor?
It feels wise.
I love that.
I swear, sometimes when I get into that thought process, I'm like, ooh, you're really something now. Like you really know how to like get around with that. And then it gives me some sort of insight on people around me. Because honestly, getting out of this made me more conscious of how deeply ingrained these habits or comments or just things that fuel eating disorders in people are prevalent in our society,
Yeah.
in our families, in our friends, in our some people have traits, have major traits and have no idea that they do have them. And some people fuel them so badly and they have no idea that they're doing it. And it's crazy to me to just it feels kind of like I'm watching from the outside now that I'm more aware of it. But it also feels like I want to do something about it to help people, you know? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When certainly in my recovery, when I realized just how incredible it felt to be kind to myself, to like who I was, and to not beat myself up 24/7,
Hmm.
and to be nourished and not living in the survival response. I literally wanted to go out and just make everybody be nice to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't say that, be nice.
You be kind to yourself, you.
Because it makes such an incredible difference. It's like you are almost living in a different planet, isn't it? It's
Yes.
incredibly different.
And honestly, going through my recovery, I had a lot of obstacles with people commenting, with people giving me their opinion that I didn't ask for. Their
Yes, you did, didn't you?
yeah, it was really bad sometimes, and it just made me realize how ignorant people are and
Yeah,
how much of an impact they may be putting on someone's life, and they're not even aware of it.
yeah. Diet culture has, and fitness culture has so much to answer for. We are so conditioned to believe that thinner is better,
Hmm.
that we have to look a certain way to be happy. And I think we are taught from very young to stop listening to our bodies and to stop being kind to ourselves. We grow up with people criticizing themselves, and that's what we learn to do.
I think it's also this this generation, this fast-paced living we're living right now, definitely plays into it. It's like you don't have time to feel your emotions. Just keep going. You don't have time to to sit and dwell over something. Just keep going. It's all like a. I feel like how the world has become now with just how fast everything is changing with social media, with everything. It's just a go, 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 go mentality.
It
It's
is.
just, yeah, it just doesn't give you the time and the space to just breathe and think about what you're feeling, what you're going through, whatever.
And do you take the time and the space now to think and feel and just be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell
No, I
me
mean,
about your relationship with food now.
it's completely different. It's completely transformed, honestly. Um, I think. when I was deep in the eating disorder, I never used to eat out ever. Like even when my family maybe would order in, I'd always eat whatever's left over in the fridge.
Mhm.
I'd always make something myself or something, and I'd just claim that I like home food more. And I mean, I think that's one big thing I realized about myself. I don't always like home food more. Sometimes I actually enjoy eating out. I really like having desserts outside the house. I really like,
You wouldn't have desserts when we first started working together. You were trying to meet your hunger with so-called healthy foods, weren't you?
Oh, this is one thing that really changed about my eating habits, by the way, desserts. I never used to have desserts. And I have the biggest sweet tooth ever. Like if I ever have to choose between sweet and savory, even if it's like an apple like a savory snack, I'd always choose whatever's sweet, you know? So the fact that I had restricted desserts for so long, I think was actually the reason why most of my recovery was sugar, 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 sugar 24/7.
Yes.
I love sugar. Like I love anything sweet. So I think that kind of came back to bite me in recovery. I was
One of the fears a lot of people have in recovery, particularly when they start getting really hungry, is that they're just going to only ever eat those sweet foods forever and ever and ever. Tell me about your diet now. Is it relatively balanced? Does your body just tell you you want different things, or do you literally just eat sweet stuff?
No, it's normal somewhat. Like it's yeah, I have a balance of both. It's good.
And to have that balance, has that been difficult, or do you just literally, your body just tells you what you need? You just eat what you fancy?
No, I just eat what I feel like I need, and I'm not gonna lie to you honestly, because it hasn't been that long since I've got out of recovery. I still get
No.
yeah, I still get a lot of instant hunger cues and a lot of cravings sometimes. Mostly at night where I'd really feel like having something sweet. But the difference between now and before is that I would understand that this is something my body is asking me for, and I would understand that this is something I really feel like having right now. And if I restrict, it's not going to help me at all. It's not going to serve me. It's actually going to do the complete opposite. So when I do get these cravings, I just let myself have whatever I'm feeling like having, even if it's more than I typically would or more than
Mm.
a normal person would typically have. But then I'd somewhat satisfy it, and it would pass, and just life goes on, you know?
It does. And actually, I think the getting cravings at night was the last thing to go for me in recovery. That took the longest. I suppose because it's the longest period that we go without eating is during the night.
Yeah.
I think it takes quite a long time for your body to feel truly safe. And so that gap of time is when the body doesn't feel so safe. But you honoring that hunger, honoring those cravings is just keeping on reassuring your body that you're safe now and it's okay, which is just fantastic.
Exactly.
Tell me about your relationships now compared to what they were, because you felt quite isolated when we first started working together.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up actually. I was hoping we'd talk about that because this is something that I've felt a 180 change with. Like honestly, I had reached a point where I was completely isolated, physically, mentally, everything. Even if I'm
Mm-hmm.
around people, I'm isolated. I'm not actually there. But at the same time, I had completely lost the ability to connect with people,
This included your family, didn't it?
included my family, yeah. And now it's like I'm seeing a whole nother version of myself that I like a lot more around people. I feel more connected. I feel more. I get a lot of comments from people that I have good energy, or that or that I look happy, or I look, um, I don't know, just energy wise, I feel like I've completely changed. And it's something that took a lot of work out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But also now, with the people that really matter, it just comes out alone. You know, you get what I'm saying? It's like I want to have a good time for myself,
Yes.
not for the people around me. Because that's how I thought about it before when I was completely isolated. If I'm around people, I just do what I'm obliged to do in that situation to show that I'm having a good time, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
What you think they think you should be doing.
Exactly, just acting the part, playing the part
Yeah.
until it's over. But now it's more like, no, I want to play that, not play that part. I want to be present in that part that I'm playing for myself and for whoever I'm with. It's more of like a wholesome view on it, if that makes sense.
I remember a defining moment during the time we were working together where you went out for an ice cream with your dad for the first time in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. That really did something to you. You were like, wow.
I think that was like a triggering moment that brought a lot more moments afterwards, because it made me realize that I used to use food as a bonding mechanism with a lot of people in my life that I had recently been feeling very distant to. My dad being one of them. We used to always bond over either sports or food, and it was kind of like, um, he he became isolated sports wise because he had an injury that he couldn't continue anymore. So we stopped training together. And then I became isolated food wise. So we stopped having that kind of connection together. So with time, I started to feel like we barely had a relationship anymore, because that's how we used to bond, either this or that.
Mm-hmm.
So having that come back a little bit made me feel like I had been missing out a lot these past few years. And it made me realize that a lot of social events, a lot of connection happens over food.
Yes, it
Not,
is.
yeah, not necessarily that we have to be having a meal, but just the comfort around snacking on things, having dessert, going for a drink with someone, a lot of it was social. And I think that's why I was feeling isolated, because I would always remove myself from any social event.
That
That,
involved food.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So at the very beginning of our chat today, you said, I'm happy it happened. And a
That's
lot of people will think, what the fuck?
I,
Seriously? How can you be happy? Now I get it, because honestly, I am so happy I went through what I went through. But tell us why you are happy it happened.
I honestly never thought I would hear myself say that. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, especially when I was mid recovery, like the ugly phase. I had a lot of days where I would question whether this is actually all worth it. And I'm pretty sure you remember countless nights where I would be like, is this even worth it? Like, I don't even know if I want to keep going. It's too much. And it was too much, but it was worth it in the end. It's the it's the stubbornness and determination I talked about earlier that really kept me pushing.
Mm-hmm.
But what really kept me going is having hope that there's some sort of like light at the end of the tunnel. When you kept saying that it gets better, it gets better, it gets better, I kept trying to remind myself every time it felt like things were falling apart or I was out of control or whatever. I'd keep reminding myself of that. And I started to see it a little bit, even when I wasn't fully recovered. I started to see glimpses of it. I started to get little feelings, little situations. It it just it just
Like
needed.
moments like with your dad when you connected over the ice cream.
Exactly, exactly. Little things like that made me realize that it really is worth it. It really does get better, and it really is worth it because I mean, what's life if you're just gonna live it in monotone without feeling anything in a smaller body that you don't even really like? Honestly,
Yeah.
like let's just get real with this. It, what's the point if you're just gonna keep living like that? And honestly, now that I look back at it, I wish that the amount of time I was stuck in the eating disorder was shorter because I feel like I missed out on so many good years of my life.
Did you have any idea how much of your life was restricted as well as just the food?
No, not at first, at least. Not until I started actually taking steps to recover, until I actually threw myself into it, that I realized that there's so much more that I was stuck in, not just the food.
And tell me how you feel your relationship is with yourself now as a person. Do you like you?
Honestly, yes. I think it's completely changed my outlook on myself because when you get out of something like this and you realize how much you've done for yourself by yourself, because at the end of the day it's you by yourself.
Yeah.
Whoever helps you is just a driver. Whoever helps you is just a an external support. But I mean,
You're the
honestly,
one doing the work, aren't you?
exactly. If I would have started with you and I didn't put in the work, it was never going to happen.
No, no, you have to do the work.
Exactly. So at the end, it's just you doing hard things for yourself, by yourself. So when you look back and you realize that, it's like, it's just like, it gives you like a sense of glory. Like, I really did that. And it just, honestly, it feels great. I think it's something that makes me like who I am more and more, even if I didn't like it in the beginning. Because I remember when I started to gain weight in the beginning, I hated it. I hated how I felt. I hated how I looked. I, it just wasn't it for me. And now it's like a completely different outlook that I have on myself.
And that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I had a question in my head then that I was going to ask you, and it's gone. Wow. Okay, right. What was it, Julia? Come on, you've got this. Um, no, it's gone. I'm going to ask something different. It'll come back. I'm sure it will come back.
I just have something I think is very important to address
Yeah.
related to the last question. A major part of my body changing was getting back my sense of femininity. And that was a major, major milestone for me because I feel like I had lived in my masculine energy for so long, not just physically, mentally,
You
men-
were very much in the masculine energy.
both mentally and physically. And the weight gain plus the mental work started to teach me how to manifest in my feminine energy more and more because I had realized that I'd lost my identity as a girl, as a female, as it just it was something that was so foreign to me at that time that I had to almost reteach myself.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the main things that helped me love my body and love myself more because I saw myself becoming more feminine, not just physically, even mentally, just the emotions coming back.
Yeah.
It's different.
I've remembered what my question is, and it follows beautifully from there. Tell us about, you got your period back, yeah?
Yes, finally. Woo.
That was such a celebration.
Yeah.
And now you are regularly having periods?
Yes, it's been 3 months.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
And um, how did you find the coaching for you? Did it work well for you? What parts do you think were beneficial, the most beneficial for you?
I think having like the 24/7 availability WhatsApp connection, that was very important for me because a lot of times I would need support at a time during the day. Maybe something would happen and I feel like I need some reassurance, or
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm doubting something maybe, so I needed to ask questions. I always felt like this open channel of communication was very important, and it's something that really kept me in check. Um, um, I mean, for me, I think that was the most important thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And obviously, coaching is an investment in yourself. Would you say it's worth the investment?
100%. Honestly, 100%. And I think coaching specifically for eating disorders, because I had misled myself before. I had misled myself into thinking, oh, I just lost my period. I don't have any eating disorder habits. I'm just gonna go for like because I've worked with a period recovery coach before.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't specifically tackling any eating disorder habits at all. You know, she'd just give you, oh, eat this, eat 2,500 plus calories a day, and you'll be fine. But that obviously didn't work for me. So I think really finding what you need, and for me, I mean, I'm very thankful I found you. Like, I can't even begin to express how life-saving that was.
Why specifically?
What do you mean?
Why was finding me so life-saving to you?
Because it was exactly what I needed at exactly the right time. Just right time, right place. And I just seized it, you know? I had this moment of realization when I finished listening to your podcasts and everything. I was like, this is exactly what I need right now. Maybe I don't feel like I want it, but it's what I need, and I know it's what I need, not want.
And needs always have to come before wants.
Exactly.
And do you think that is because my coaching isn't just about the eating disorder behaviors, but actually about how you treat you?
Yes, 100%. Because that was something I really needed help with. I really, really needed to learn to treat myself not just better, but in the right way. I needed to learn to navigate myself in a way that worked for me. And I think this personalized coaching is what really made a difference, because it's like you're tackling your own mental and physical habits plus the eating. So it's kind of like everything comes full circle, and everything just works together in a way that builds your recovery for your personal needs. So that was very important for me.
And you have to learn to accept yourself.
Exactly. That's very important.
And you've not only learned to accept yourself, you've fallen in love, haven't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Your life is literally
Life is crazy.
flying.
Yeah.
And was it last week you got engaged?
Yes, I just got engaged actually less than a week ago, 4 or 5 days ago.
Wow.
Yes.
So you have gone from monotone, restricted, isolated, self-hatred to food freedom, self-acceptance, self-love, connected, and now in love.
It's just so overwhelming when you say it all like that.
Wow.
But it's amazing kind of overwhelming.
I'm literally just blown away. I'm beyond happy for you, sweetheart.
Honestly, I couldn't thank you enough for what you've done for me. It's been crazy, but it's been so worth it.
It has been an honor and a privilege to walk with you on your journey. It really has. And this is why I do what I do, because honestly, nothing can make me happier than to be part of somebody's transformation. It's incredible.
I can imagine how amazing that must feel, honestly. And honestly, your life will be blessed by the number of people you're helping is just gonna bless your life forever and ever.
Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart, honestly. And thank you for being you and for working so hard, facing all those fears and showing up for yourself every single day. You are so strong and so incredible.
I mean, thank you for helping me and pushing me to do that, honestly.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the listeners?
I'm just gonna say it again that it's worth it. It's hard. It's probably the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. But once you come out the other side, I promise you, it's all gonna be worth it. It's just your life will transform in ways you didn't think it would ever.
It is unrecognizable, isn't it? It's the thoughts of how you feel. Did you ever believe for a second that you would feel as good as you feel now?
Never, never. No, no, no. You just reach a point where it's like nothing really matters to you anymore, and you don't think it's gonna ever get better, and you're weirdly okay with it, and
Mm,
you're not. And that's the turning point. That's something
yes,
very important too. You have to see the turning point, and you're never gonna be ready for it. You will never be ready for it. I think this is what I should probably leave the listeners with. You will never be ready for it. You just have to jump into it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is never a time where you're like, wake up one day and, oh, I can do recovery now. That's not
never,
going to happen.
never. No, no.
Dana, I am so grateful to you for coming on and sharing your story because,
I'm honored to be here, honestly.
and listeners, this is what can happen. Honestly, everybody has this capability of going from that place that Dana was in. And we're not even talking that long ago now, are we?
At all. It's been what, maybe 2, 3 months?
Since we stopped working together, yeah.
Yeah,
So probably about 6 or 7 months ago, we started working together, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
And when we started, you were restricting, self hating, living in fear, isolated, disconnected from everybody around you, including yourself, constantly anxious and with a headache as well.
Mm.
You were very constantly like tense and your jaw and your head, and to just this incredible woman we have heard today who is just living in her own light of love.
Thank you. That means a lot. It really does.
Look at you, you're glowing. You're literally glowing. You haven't stopped smiling. Your
I
voice is
It
full of
just feels so
inspiration.
surreal. It feels so surreal at this point that I've reached this point. And it's gonna keep being a work in progress, by the way. Just one thing I have to point out. I'm not like 100% perfect now.
I don't think anyone ever is.
I still have cravings. I still have bad anxiety days. Uh I'm still not 100% tapped into my emotions, but it's just worlds apart from what I was before.
Yeah.
And I'm confident at this point that it will get even better.
And it will. And that relationship with food and your body, once that fully heals, which I would say you're pretty much there, the anxiety and stuff, the self-doubt, that part of recovery turns into self-discovery. And every time you start to question those feelings, because most of us, we walk through life blindly. We just accept that we have these feelings and don't do anything about them.
Exactly.
And then once we start to be aware, I'm just ignoring my dog barking. Once we start to be aware and move forwards in questioning the reasons, that's when things start to open up, when we start to discover more and more and more about ourselves. She's very mind dog.
She wants to come out and play.
Yes, she does.
I think what you just said is very important, the self-discovery part, because that's exactly what it was like. I feel like I'm getting to know myself as a whole new person in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And that's what's helping me build myself as a new person, basically, because the person I was those past few years was not me.
No. And you get to be excited when you get scared, because it means you get to discover something new.
Yes. And honestly, every scary step throughout recovery was terrifying, but was worth it. Even other than the food stuff. I remember the first time you asked me to open up to someone about it.
Yeah.
I spent like...
Because you were living in secret, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, maybe just my parents kind of detected a little bit that they probably knew I had an eating disorder, but I never really opened up to them about it. Anyone else, I was living in complete secret. So when you asked me to tell someone, it took me maybe like 2 weeks of overthinking before I decided to take the step. And I could barely speak when I did, but I think it was the most liberating thing ever.
Yeah. Because the eating disorder thrives in secrecy.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go out and tell everyone, but I told one person that counts.
You might have just done that on the podcast.
Oops. Was this a trap? You trapped me. I knew it. I knew there was traps to this.
Oh, I love that. Okay, sweetheart. We probably ought to wrap up the episode, but I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing this, and I am beyond proud of you. You are incredible.
I'm so thankful for you and for this experience, and for anyone thinking or having doubts of starting recovery. I'm just telling you, it's all worth it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will see you all next week.